Do you see this holy grail that I have in my hand right now? If you're unaware, this is Biomega by Tsutomu Nihei. And let me tell you about this. This has to be one of my favorite mangas ever, okay? This is actually a Japanese copy and it's flipped, so it probably doesn't look that well on screen. But yeah, this is a relatively more obscure manga from Tsutomu Nihei. If you don't know who that is, he's the creator of series like Blam, Knights of Sidonia, or recently the new manga Tower Dungeon, which I actually started reading and I'll talk about a little bit in this video too. But yeah, in my humble opinion, I feel like this is actually Tsutomu Nihei's magnum opus, okay? Hear me out. Listen, don't click off yet if you're a Blam fan, okay? I'm a Blam fan too. Also, real quick, if you haven't heard of Blam, definitely check that out too. I know the camera's flipped again, but you can kind of see. But basically, right after Blam, Tsutomu Nihei made another short story that I also have called Abara. And this is, I'm going to talk a little bit about this in a sec, but this is also a very, very good manga. But after these two amazing works that he made, he became much more seasoned, you know. His art style really solidified itself, and he really became, you know, much more skilled as a storyteller. And then that's when Biomega comes into the picture, right? Again, for those who don't know, Tsutomu Nihei creates these very crazy post-apocalyptic stories that usually have this insanely massive architecture that makes the characters in the story feel like little tiny ants, and it's very bleak and existential and dreadful, but it's also filled with amazing action and amazing artwork and a very usually kind of mysterious and obscure plot. And a quick plot summary for Biomega, right? So essentially it takes place in the year 3000. I'm going to recall this the best I can because it's been a little while. I just started rereading it, but essentially humans have finally had a manned mission to Mars and they set up a colony there, but unfortunately it sort of went to ruin. And as some of those people came back, they brought back with them the N5S virus, which infected pretty much the whole population of the Earth, turning them into these what they call drones. They're kind of like zombies, but they're like way stronger and like more agile, and they like mutate in these like really like crazy body horror ways. And essentially the main character, Zoichi, is an agent sent by this organization to essentially locate this girl who's immune to the N5S virus and adapted to it, so she can basically like regenerate herself if she gets hurt. There's another organization that's more antagonistic called the DRF that wants to find her for their own gains. So basically the story is him trying to rescue this girl while the whole world is pretty much becoming infested with these zombies. And there's just like a crazy amount of action, crazy, you know, environments and landscapes, crazy artwork, and really cool badass like characters and villains and things like that. And it's honestly like a pretty short story. I think it's only about like 42 or so chapters, so it's a quick read. You could read it in a day. But yeah, I feel like in this story Tsutomu Nihei really has had time to develop his skills as an artist and a writer, and I feel like it really shows in this manga more so than Blam. Don't get me wrong, I love Blam, but I feel like at times my only little gripes that I have with Blam is it feels like the story is a little bit confusing and all over the place at times, whereas this is still very mysterious and a little confusing, but it's more focused and direct and intentional, and you can tell he really learned from his other works that he wrote before it. And yeah, you can really see like how his art skill has leveled up in this manga. I mean, the environments are just like insane. You see these insane buildings similar to Blam. You see these towering structures that the characters are going through that makes them feel very small and inconsequential. But on top of that, you also have a great cast in this as well, and including all of the, you know, the enemies and the villains. Like the design of a lot of the enemies in this manga are like top tier, chef's kiss, amazing. In almost all of Tsutomu Nihei's works, the main character is usually a badass, and in this manga that's no exception. He kind of gives off like Leon Kennedy from Resident Evil 4 vibes, I'm not gonna lie. He has similar to Blam, which this does have a lot of similarities to Blam. People have speculated in the past that it's connected to Blam, but I think he's come out and say that they're not connected. He just likes to put certain little things that have similar names like Toha Industries and things like that, that kind of share a name in both of the stories, but they're not actually connected. But anyway, yeah, similar to Killy in Blam, he has this high-powered pistol that pretty much wrecks everyone in his way, except for the few exceptions of other enemies that are like a lot more high-powered and that he kind of struggles to fight a bit. But that helps to keep the tension in the story and keep these great like battle sequences that are just like, man, I feel like I haven't seen stuff like this in a lot of other manga. And yeah, as the story progresses, things kind of just escalate and escalate and escalate to this insane point that I'm not going to spoil in case you do end up checking it out, to where like towards the end of the manga, it's almost unrecognizable, you know, like what's going on. It's like a freaking mind fuck, you know? And I'm not the best with like describing in words, but like if you're a fan of like Neon Genesis Evangelion, like plots like that are like very esoteric and like mystical, and like they're very much so like a brain fuck. Like this isn't necessarily to that degree, but it's kind of similar in that vein, like, you know, Ergo Proxy, Serial Experiments Lane. If you like a lot of psychological kinds of works, then like I feel like this has a good blend of that sort of psychological mystery aspect and then the action aspect. And it's just like that combined with the, you know, short length of it, I feel like it's just like a must read, you know. But yeah, I picked up this copy while I was in Japan. I believe it was, I can't remember the name of the store, but it was in the Nakano Broadway, huge bookstore in this mall that was like on each side of the mall. So there was like, you would be walking down the mall hallway and the store was on the left and the right side and just all filled with books, and it was crazy. But unfortunately, this was the only one they had in that entire store. I had to go up to a staff member and ask them where the Tsutomu Nihei section was because I couldn't read the Japanese, you know, signs and stuff like that. And he pointed me to it, and this was the only Biomega book there. Unfortunately, I was hoping to see if I could find a full set, but that'll just have to wait. I think in the American like English version, if I wanted to find a full set, it'd probably be around like $200. So I was opting to just get a Japanese version first. It would probably only run me about like 40-50. Probably could find it online too, so we'll see. We might end up doing that, but this is easily one of my favorite mangas ever. This is one of those mangas that I hype up to everyone and I tell them to read, so now I'm telling you. And again, if you're not familiar with Tsutomu Nihei and you want to start with something a little more popular and honestly probably just as good, I would say, not my personal pick, it's very close. It's a very close battle between this and Biomega, but Blam is the more well-known work. Definitely check this out. Still pretty much kind of the same things, crazy characters, crazy environmental design. I'm sure you've probably seen, you know, screens and images of this manga. At least if you're an avid, you know, anime or manga watcher, you've probably seen it around somewhere. And also maybe not as well known, but still relatively popular in, you know, the people who are fans of Tsutomu Nihei is Abara. This one is also really cool because it's partially what inspired Chainsaw Man. The main character in this even has the same name, Denji. I think, you know, Fujimoto just wanted to pay an homage to this book specifically by naming the main character the same thing. And even the design of the main character's like suit of armor is very similar to how Denji's transformation is. And it's just this, you know, if a top tier manga like that was inspired by something, I think that's a tell sign to check it out. This one specifically also has really incredible art, and you can see how much Tsutomu Nihei improved his skills after writing Blam, because this came right after he finished Blam. Again, this one's a short story, so it's not that long, but the artwork is just like insane, and the fight, you know, choreography and design of everything is just crazy, so you should definitely check that out. And lastly, I recently started reading Tower Dungeon, which is his latest manga. I haven't read another one that he made called Knights of Sidonia. I don't know too much about that one, but I think people like that one. I gotta check that one out next. But this one that recently started airing or serializing is Tower Dungeon. I think it's about 25 chapters out right now, and it's pretty dang good. It's very different from his other stuff in that it's a lot more grounded. The scale isn't as big as a lot of his other manga, and I think that's a lot more intentional because, as the name suggests, Tower Dungeon, he wants it to feel a little more like claustrophobic while still having like this big scale. Essentially in that manga, there's this in this kingdom, I'm gonna paraphrase very poorly, but in this kingdom, this evil necromancer kills the king of the kingdom and basically takes his body and kidnaps the princess, and he summons this massive tower that reaches like, miles and miles into the sky. And basically this young kid from this village is like conscripted to go help save the princess, and it basically follows him and his group as they try to go from the first floor to the 100th floor of the tower and rescue the princess. And yeah, it's very different from his other manga in that the main character is strong, but he's not like overpowered. In some of his other works, like the main character is like really this badass, maybe not to the degree of like Solo Leveling or something like that, but they're extremely strong. But in this manga, he's like a lot more grounded, not as skilled, and very much green. He's like never really fought before, but he has this innate like strength that is sort of like a big plot point that I won't spoil too much. But yeah, that series has been really interesting to read because it's very much so more like character centric. The characters are a lot more lively and they have a lot more personality than in a lot of his other mangas, and I think that's a great change and a great thing that he's kind of exploring in this one. But it's been very enjoyable so far. A lot of the same things, like these really cool monsters and really cool environmental design. This story specifically, Tower Dungeon, has really cool lore and like the different kinds of creatures and races that are in the the world of Tower Dungeon. So I think he's exploring a lot of new ideas and things that he hasn't before, which is very, very refreshing, especially in the fantasy manga genre, where it kind of feels like all these, no shade to any other manga or anime out there, but a lot of them feel kind of generic to me. And this one definitely has a very unique flair to it. So if you haven't checked that one out, I highly recommend that too. But yeah, what do you guys think? Have you guys read any of Tsutomu Nihei's work before? Are you a fan? Any other manga that you guys recommend that I should check out? Let me know. Definitely going to try to talk more about manga and anime on here. So definitely let me know. Leave a comment, like, subscribe, all that jazz. And until next time, peace.